Oh, Dragapult. Whenever I open OBS, there's a 50% chance I'm going to be talking about Dragapult. And today, we rolled that 50% chance. So, we're going to be talking about Dragapult. And as you all know, Dragapult is a fairly solved deck, right? As I scroll through these Dragapults, you can kind of see a very, very common theme. We see a lot of Dragapult Dusknoirs, and every once in a while, we will see a Dragapult Charizard. And only once in the most recent tournaments will we see the topic of today's video, Straight Dragapult. Straight Dragapult is a deck that had a lot of success. It was a much more common deck around 4 or 5 months ago, back when you were playing things like Unfair Stamp in Dragapult, right? But now, after the tech of Neo Upper Energy and people understanding the true potential of this deck, people very much so would swap over to the more aggressive, the really good version being the Dragapult Dusknoir. And that's fair. However, if we take a look at the meta right now, there's another reason that Dragapult Dusknoir is the very, very good version of the deck. It's because things like Goldango would destroy Dragapult, the straight Dragapult, right? If we take a look at this only straight Dragapult version, you have to play really awkward cards. You have to play such weird things. You have to play, you know, Toadscool and Toadscruel, right? And these just don't, they just aren't good, right? Maractus isn't as good as it was beforehand because you would be playing, you could trap stuff back then. Nowadays, it's very difficult to trap stuff because everything is playing a Turo, everything is playing a Pekarunt and some switches and stuff. You have to play something like a Team Rocket's Watchtower to try and help out different matchups as well. You have to play Enhanced Hammer. It's just a really difficult deck to play. However, let's now swap continents. Let's swap circuits. Let's take a quick look at Japan circuits. You might be thinking, why am I looking at Japan circuits? Well, that's because right now, my next major event that I will be attending will be over in Japan. This will be the Aichi Champions League, right? It is happening on the 8th of December. As of recording right now is the 20th of November, so I have just under 2 weeks. Sorry, it happens on the 6th of December, so I have just over 2 weeks to prepare for it. And that is what I'm preparing for. I'm flying out on the 1st of December, and I will be playing in the Champions League over in Japan. And in Japan, things are a little bit different. Step into my classroom. Bam, classroom background. Hopefully editor me made a classroom background. If he didn't, then whatever. Anyway, over in Japan, there is a very clear favorite deck. And that very clear favorite deck is Goldango, right? It's everywhere, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 4 in just top 16. Yeah, that's fair enough. Obviously, Japan is a very lots of people will play a lot of fun decks and just random stuff to city leagues because they can. City leagues are tournaments that are capped at 64 players, and yeah, there's a lot of them happening every single day, basically. So, however, let's take a quick look at this format over here, right? This is a pretty decent representation. I guess there's a lack of Dragapults. There's still some Dragapults over in Japan. However, the main things you see is the Goldengos and also the Raging Bolts, right? Raging Bolt is still very popular in Japan, and this is for a very good reason. It's because Japan likes to play very simple, very easy, very fast, and consistent decks, because over in Japan, it is all best of one, right? That is a very important thing to remember about their format. It is all best of one, and they have a 25-minute time limit. There are no ties, right? In Japan, there are no ties. If it goes to time, you both lose, all right? It's not like, oh, whoever's on prize cards, you both lose. So no one wants to tie. That's why everyone plays very fast decks, and if they play if they play Guardi, usually they play it very fast, right? You might make an argument that Japanese players play slower in the Western circuit, but that's because now they actually have time to play with, and they do play slower, and you can afford ties sometimes, right? Whereas in Japan, you don't want to tie, right? Because there's no ties, you will lose. So there is a very clear thing over here, right? This has a decent fire weakness, this has a decent fire weakness, this has a decent fire weakness, this is a decent fire weakness, this is a decent fire weakness, this has a decent fire weakness, right? So I guess you could argue that this deck also has a decent-ish fire weakness. So decks that have fire types have a pretty decent matchup into the meta. However, Ceruledge, you might be thinking, all right, well, why isn't that played more? Well, that's because, you know, Goldango can still one-shot Ceruledge, and Ceruledge can one-shot Goldango, and it's still a 2-for-2 prize trade. It's not the worst thing in the world for Goldango to match up against, because you can chill in a 1-prize board state and then end up going into a more 2-prize board state when they finally evolve to Ceruledge, right? And that made me think, what can I play that can beat Goldango, Absolbox, and Raging Bolt? Well, I decided upon Straight Bolt. And you might be thinking, Straight Bolt, well, I was just slandering it. Why am I talking about Straight Bolt now? That's because I'm not talking about the Straight Bolt that you guys all know. This is a new version of Straight Bolt, right? This is not Autopad, this is a Pokepad. Searches the deck for one Pokemon without a rule box and puts it into your hand, meaning you can grab Dreepy, Dracloak, Badoo, Duskull, Dusclops, Munkidori, Hawlucha, and the main topic of today's video, the Moltres, right? Moltres is a basic Pokemon, 120 HP, 1 energy attack for 1 fire, 20 damage plus 90 if your opponent's active Pokemon is an EX, right? So that means you're doing 110 damage to your X's. If you attack into something like a Genesect, you are doing 220 damage because of weakness. If you attack into something like a Teal Mask Pokemon, you are doing 220 damage, right? I think you guys can see where I'm going with this. With a Brave Bangle or a Defiance Band, and you swing into something like a Goldengo, you are doing 280 damage. All right, so this is the first draft of the list. I haven't really made too many differences. I changed a few like counts of like ball stuff, but other than that, this deck, we played a few games against Goldengo, and it wasn't close. It's not a close matchup. They took 3 prize cards. This is a very tailored to beat Goldengo deck. If you don't like Goldengo and you like Pult, this is definitely a deck you could take a look at. So the idea is you can chill behind Badoo in the early game. Sure, they can be attacking with their 1 prize Solrock Lunatone, but the thing is, you're going to be Badooing them. It's going to be quite slow to set that up. You can start threatening them with Dracloaks, evolving into Dragapults, Phantom Diving them, right? You can take a knockout or 2 with the Dragapult plus. If they don't want to evolve into the Goldengos, right? That means they'll have Kore-Kores, what are they called? Gimme Ghouls, 70 HP guys on the bench. You can go Hawlucha, KO an active Lunatone or Solrock, KO a benched little guy, and then you can take 2 prize cards that turn. Let's say then on this following turn, after they've killed a Badoo, they now kill your Dragapult, so you're on 4 prize cards, they're on 3 prize cards, right? For Dragapult, this isn't a great thing, right? Because they're gonna get to that crucial number of 0 before you do. However, it's where Moltres comes in, right? Because they are on 3 prize cards, you can attach your Defiance Band, right? And you can use Moltres as attack and go down to 2 prize cards, right? And since you're a 1 prize board state, you have a bunch of Dracloaks, Moltres, whatever, they can't cheese out multiple prize cards. And you will have multiple Dracloaks in play with 90 HP. You will have Moltres in play, which is 120 HP, meaning that the little guy, they Solrock and Lunatone can't one-shot either of these guys. Meaning they will have to either 2-shot them, which you do not want to do, or they will have to evolve into Dengo. And usually that's what they'll do. Usually once they commit to one Dengo, they will evolve into multiple Dengo. If anything, they'll also have to bench a Genesect. And if they bench a Genesect, the game's basically as good as done. You're just going to boss up that Genesect, KO the Genesect without having to use Defiance Band or Brave Bangle. And then on the next turn, you can attach a Defiance Band or Brave Bangle onto Moltres, KO a Goldengo, and then on the following turn, you can either attach Brave Bangle to the Moltres or the Defiance Band onto the Ursaluna and take your last 2 prize cards. There are very many prize maps in this matchup, right? You can still go for the Dragapult Phantom Dive knockout with Dusclops, both of their Lunatone Sorroks. You can go for the Hawlucha play. You can also, if they have to bench the Genesect in the beginning of the game, you can go Moltres boss. That's why you're playing 3 bosses and 2 counter catches instead of 3 counter catches, 2 bosses. It's because you want to get aggressive with this Moltres, right? Against Raging Bolt, you want to be able to boss up their Teal Mask Ogopons as often as possible to just knock them out for 3 2 prize cards, right? So you want to be chasing Pokemon like that down, and Moltres is just a really good card to do that. So it solves the Genesect matchup. I mean, it solves the Goldengo matchup. It solves the Raging Bolt matchup because essentially now you can just go Moltres, Ursaluna, or Moltres, Dragapult with the Defiance Band 230, and then Ursaluna. So that's also a super nice way to do it. You can also Dusclops and stuff. So it has many ways to deal with these, big tankier decks. Against the Ceruledge, you might have a more difficult time. However, you can also stay in a 1 prize board state with the Moltres and try and set up multiple turn KOs. If they do, they will be playing the Squawkabillies, so that's something else that you can kind of greed out on with a Dragapult Phantom Dive. You can just KO that early in the game. Then after they KO Dragapult, you can pivot into a Moltres, just swing into the Ceruledge, and then swing it back into Dragapult, and then close the game out with another Dragapult. And the damage counters, you can also try and deny them with the Badoo early game, and then get a little bit aggressive with the Dusclops plus Dragapult play. So there's a lot of ways you can deal with these kinds of decks, right? Those decks aren't the problem. The problem of these decks is probably the Gardevoir, right? Gardevoir isn't the greatest matchup for Dragapult in general, and this is no difference. Dusclops does allow you to board wipe them. It allows you to be a little bit more aggressive with the Phantom Dive, right? However, that's not like the greatest thing you can do. I'm not gonna be like, oh, God of War's a solid matchup. God of War's a great matchup. It's not a great matchup. I understand it's probably a matchup I need to work on with this deck. But the thing is, we are very consistent. We are a very consistent deck. We are playing 4 Iono, 3 Lily, 2 Arven, 3 Poffins, 3 Pokepads, 2 Ultra Ball, 2 Nest Ball. This is a lot of Ball Surge, right? We are a very consistent deck, right? Then we have 1 Rod, 1 Night Stretcher, Double Catcher. Then we are playing a Town Store build instead of the Jamming Tower. So we have Town Store for the Sparkling Crystal, Defiance Band, and Brave Bangle, right? And something else that we can do over here is obviously power up Dragapult in 1 turn. You can do the same thing with Neo Upper Energy, but the thing is, it's nice because you can just go Moltres with the Town Store, with the Brave Bangle, take a knockout, and then next turn if you want to attack with Dragapult, you can then go Town Store for Sparkling Crystal, and then attach, and then you have Dragapult set up in 1 turn as well, which is quite nice, right? You don't have to find your one of a spec like Neo Upper Energy with something like a Hilda. In this case, you can use your Town Stores. You have many ways to actually find this A-spec, more than you would with the Neo Upper Energy. And then on top of that, if we something you do probably want to include in this deck is a Psyduck, right? Because if we take a look at some of these places, right, in Tokyo, I know Dragapult is quite common. So let's take a look at Card Seeker, one of my favorite shops over in Japan. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of 16 decks or Dragapult Dusknoir, right? So Straight Pult is pretty good against Dragapult Dusknoir. If we put in a Psyduck, there's a good chance we're going to be beating most of these Dragapults, right? Because Straight Pult is just inherently a more consistent version of the deck, right? We also have decent one-price options to attack. We have good ways to dispatch of Badoos and stuff. We have more space for Monkey Dories and stuff, right? And it just means we have a better time against just these random jank decks and decks that play Psyduck. That is the main thing right now. If the meta shapes up how I think it's going to shape up and people start playing more Psyducks in their decks, then I think Straight Pult is going to be a very good way to build this deck. Obviously, you do still play the Dusclops, right? But it's not that big of a deal. You don't have to be popping Dusclops in most matchups, right? Dusclops isn't the highlight of the deck. The idea is you just kind of hope you run into the clear best deck and clear most common decks of number 1 being the Dengo and number 2 being Raging Bolt, right? If you're able to hit these matchups like 2 out of 3 games, or even 1 out of 3 games, that means you're winning a lot of games, right? And then it is still straight Pult. You do still just have that power of Pult, and if you play against something like, for example, the Tord Box, you have Hooper, right? Hooper is a decent attacker. Even then, Moltres is a good attacker. Moltres is just a good attacker. It can swing into things for 110 damage, usually, right? And then Pult can come in and close out the knockouts on those Pokemon, right? For any basic 3-prize Pokemon, that is a knockout, right? And we also have Monkey Dory. We also have the Dusclops if we want to use the Dusclops, but we also have Monkey Dory to, deal more damage. They'll probably be moving damage back, so we can chill in a 1-prize board state with the Moltres, with Tricloaks and stuff. They can move some damage back, right? You aren't going to be attacking into them with the Moltres if they have like triple Monkey Dory established. That's just not something you're going to be doing. So yeah. We also have Triple Boss, meaning we can chase down things like Monkey Dory more often. We can chase down their 2 prizes and just try and get away with that kind of stuff. So the deck is actually pretty good. I've played a few games with it, and it's, first of all, it's really consistent. That's, I think, the best part about it. It is super, super consistent. Out of the, 4 games that I've played that wasn't against Dengo, I was able to get Quadra-Cloak and 3 or 4 Dracloaks up 5 out of 6 games. And the games against Goldengo, I was able to set up on my second turn. On the first game, I was able to set up 4 Dracloaks, and on the third turn, I was able to set up 3 Dracloaks with double Moltres. It was pretty consistent, right? And you're able to chain these Moltres attacks pretty nicely. Moltres is just a good attacker, even if it's only 2-shotting stuff, right? It's still pretty good because they have to deal with it eventually, right? Otherwise it's just going to be doing consistent good damage. And you can still pair it up with things like this Brave Bangle, like this Dusclops, like Monkey Dory, and you can be one-shotting things like a Fezandipity, right? So for example, Fez has 210 HP. If you have the Moltres in play, you're doing 140 plus Monkey Dory 30, that's 170, right? If you get it from somewhere that they deal damage to. And then if you pop the Dusclops, you're doing 220 damage, right? And that's just into a 2-prize. And then sure, you're giving up 1 prize, but the thing is, on the following turn, they can still only take 1 prize, right? Into like the Moltres. And then after that, you can come in with Dragapult. So there is a good shout to play a deck like this. I think right now this is just the first version of the deck. I think I haven't tested it against God of War, so that is obviously something I should probably do. And then I will kind of update the list and kind of update you guys on what I'm thinking about, because I'm going to try and, you know, keep you guys updated in the loop for my testing for IG. If you guys want to, you know, keep up with my testing for IG or even my IG run and just keep up with new content, then join the Discord below. We have over 600 members now, so shout out to you guys. If you guys want to join the Discord, I'll leave a link down below. And if you guys want to support me, I have a Medify. I upload guides there. They're pretty cheap. The most expensive one is like $10. Everything else is basically $5. And yeah, I uploaded a Zoroark guide recently. Not sponsored, so may as well sponsor myself. But yeah, if you guys enjoy the content, smash like, smash subscribe. Peace.